Hello everyone. This is the sixth part of the story, Avatar in DC Universe. Chapter 19, Dire Straits. Aden's point of view. Maelstrom, do you copy? Aqualad's voice came through the comms. Loud and clear. Aqualad, I have the container in my sight. It's headed towards Gotham. I have Kid on the road as well, he will link up with the other team. Robin has a way to track the location where the monkeys are headed. Don't engage until the rest of the team is around for backup. I frowned. I can take them. The container is literally a few hundred meters away from me. No, stand down. Let's use this chance to follow the parts to where they're headed to first. I slowed down, already seeing the mistake in Aqualad's plan. Aqualad, if the other container is headed towards Gotham as well, that means there's a high chance they're convening in the same spot. Evo could assemble the parts again and that would be game over for us. We can't take that chance. He's right. The android took 8 League members 4 hours just to take it down. We're great but not League level yet, Aqualad. Plus Robin is already tracking the other parts. Kid Flash added. Calder was silent for a while. Can you take them down by yourself? The robots are weak individually but in huge numbers, they are a problem. Don't worry, I got this. My speed suddenly increased as I cut through the air heading towards the fleeing container. Some of the monkeys broke away from the group carrying the container to assault me with lasers. I ducked and weaved past the attacks using the wind to blow the robots away and then smashing them with my fists once they were thrown off kilter. A wind funnel spread out before me, fanning the monkeys blocking my path to the side, only for them to be sliced apart by the tornadoes following behind me and on the sides. I dealt with the last of the robot monkeys and carried the container down. Maelstrom to Aqualad. I've recovered the parts. Good. Signal me and I'll head to your position while you go on ahead and help the others. I looked around and made sure that no other surprises were hiding in the cornfields and flew off towards Gotham, leaving a tornado of crops to show Aqualad the way. Miss Martian. Tell me once I get within your telepathic range. Copied, Maelstrom. See you in a bit. Her voice came through the earpiece. I had never really seen how fast I could fly before. This was as good a time as any. $5 says I can break the sonic barrier. I pumped myself up and increased my flight speed to its limit. The environment passed me by in a blur. I spared a look at the sides and came to some conclusions. My speed was just subsonic. Not quite enough to break the sound barrier. Zahir from Avatar could also use the wind to fly, but there were clear differences between us. For starters, he didn't produce a gust of wind when flying. For all intents and purposes, he was the wind. In my case, however, I produced wind gusts to propel me forward. Secondly, he was, in a sense, freer. His range of movement allowed him to be flexible like the air. He could stop suddenly and drag or airspeed did not affect him. All that showed me was that I still had more improvements to make. The good thing is that at master level, I didn't need to do any bending moves. I was deeply connected with the air at that point, that with the slightest gesture I could control it to do my bidding. Maelstrom, you're within my range. Just follow the telepathic beacon to me. Miss Martian's voice pulled me out of my thoughts. Got it. I looked at the ground under me and found that I was nearing the edge of the corn plantation. A few hundred meters before me was a ranch. Even before I got there, I could already hear the sounds of battle. I touched down before the red barn and ran inside. The front of the building exploded into a shower of wooden shards as a tractor broke through it. I threw my hands forward and a gale of wind caught the 7-ton vehicle before it could ram into me. I was about to place it to the side when something impacted the tractor from behind, making it slip through my control and fall on me. Fortunately, I caught it with my hands and placed it on the ground. Kid Flash extracted himself from the wrecked side of the tractor and jumped up, looking completely fine. Great. You're here. We have a slight problem. We heard a grunt and several explosives from the barn, which made me raise an eyebrow at Kid Flash. Okay. It's a big problem. Evo managed to repair the android. What? How? We recovered the other parts before he could get them. Kid Flash didn't need to answer me because before we could go in, loud mechanic steps echoed out of the building and out came Amazo. Superboy and Robin were held in the android's 2 hands by their necks. Oh shit! He used the robotic monkeys as a replacement for the lower body. I gasped. Right, you are, my dear boy. It's a shame my monkeys failed to retrieve the other parts, but the true mark of a genius is to solve problems, and so I did. Amazo, show no. Oh no, you don't. Evo found himself lifted into the air by Miss Martian's telekinesis. He flailed about in panic. Amazo. Protect your master. Primary directive. The Amazo threw Superboy and Robin to the side and turned to Miss Martian. Access Superman. It intoned. The Man of Steel's familiar heat beams exploded out of Amazo's eyes towards Miss Martian. She dodged them, but the beams followed her. The heat beams carved a demolition line across the cornfield, setting it on fire just as Kid Flash and I jumped in to attack him. I punched out a hand onto the android's face that he caught and squeezed, making me grunt in pain. Kid Flash came in from the side and started hitting him with a metal bar he found, which did nothing. My foot slammed onto Amazo's torso with great impact, pushing him back as I flipped away. Kid Flash cleverly tripped the android and it fell to the ground. Explosive birdarangs dug themselves onto Amazo's body but fell through when the android accessed Manhunter's phasing ability. The explosion sent me spinning away for a few meters, but I got up and charged. Anyone have an idea? We're getting our asses added to us. I shouted through the comms, receiving no answer. Miss Martian begun flying away with Evo and the android pursued. Access Red Tornado. A red tornado sprang up below the android and carried him towards Miss Martian. Why didn't he just access Superman's flight? The Big Blue is faster than Tornado by far. He doesn't have all the abilities he copied from the League. Robin came to the same conclusion I did. That means if we overwhelm him with many attacks while he's occupied with getting Evo back, we can take him down. Right. Let's do it. I'm in. I'm going to turn it into scrap metal. The last words were from an angry Superboy. Miss Martian, lead the android to us. Miss M did as instructed and passed by us, with Evo screaming bloody murder and Amazo hot on her heels. Superboy growled and took a leap, shoulder-checking the android onto the cornfield. The crops were decimated and a groove was left on the ground. We ran towards the pair just as Superboy interlocked his hands and slammed a double-handed fist onto the android. Access Manhunter. The attack phased through the android and a tremor through the ground. Whoa! Kid Flash lost his footing and fell, his body tumbled away, carving another path through the crops. The owner is not going to pleased. Robin chuckled as he disappeared off into the plantation. Access Black Canary. Canary's sonic cry sent Superboy spinning away into the air. I jumped and grabbed a hold of his hand, spinning and throwing the boy of steel back at Amazo. Access Faye. His words were cut off as Connor slammed into the unsuspecting android and actually damaged it this time. One of its hands were bent the wrong way and its torso was caved in. Take this. Superboy pulled his hand back, but the android opened its mouth and activated Canary's signature move. Superboy managed to hold his ground despite being pushed back while covering his ears. Smoke bombs from Boy Wonder obscured the android's vision, covering me as I charged in. Wind surrounded both my palms, twisting and gyrating around. I enhanced my speed and cut through the smoke like a ghost. Access Superman. My eyes widened once I saw Amazo's eyes light up. I ducked just in time as the beams of solar energy flew above me. That was so close. To shorten the distance, I controlled the wind, sliding the rest of the way and then whoosh! I passed by Amazo. Sparks started running around its hips after my palm cut through it like butter. Access Faye. My palm slashed out and the head separated from its torso. The android fell down in 3 detached parts, including the lower body from my earlier attack. I walked over to its head and slammed a foot down, totally crushing it. I breathed out and sat on the android's torso. Dude, how do we keep ending up in these situations? When will a mission go right? Just for once? Wally complained, spitting out pieces of leaves from his mouth. No. What have you done, you buffoons? My genius. Evo's red bowtie detached to wrap itself around his mouth just as he and Miss Martian landed before us. Sorry, I don't like his attitude. Mgen shrugged at our looks. Trust me, no one blames you, beautiful. Kid Flash winked at Miss Martian while Robin went off to look for Superboy. Meanwhile, I tapped on my earpiece to update Aqualad on how things had turned out. He was the only one of the team who was left behind. Maelstrom to Aqualad. Maelstrom, what is the status? We're all fine. We have Evo in our custody and Amazo is scrap metal again. Good. Miss Martian's bioship is on its way to pick you up. Great job. Elsewhere. The children are becoming more than a nuisance. One of the human-like figures made of light said through the screen. Evo has been captured. He was a valuable asset. Another added. They have dared to stand in our way too many times already. This deserves retaliation. This voice was deeper than the rest. You're all correct. But for now let us leave them be. When the time is right, even they shall see the light. The last voice was more menacing than the rest. Chapter 20, A New Teammate. The Watchtower. Now that everyone has arrived. Let's begin. Batman stood up from his seat as he addressed his fellow League members. The ones present were just the mentors to the sidekicks as well as Canary, who was the team's combat instructor. We're here today to review our protégé's progress since the establishment of the junior team. The hologram between them changed to show the image of Blockbuster, Mr. Twister's remains, and all the other villains Maelstrom and the rest had gone up against. The Flash whistled. Seems like it's been an eventful few weeks for them. Flash is right. Most of these guys would have given me trouble back in the day. Arrow added. And that's taking into account that none of their encounters with the villains have gone exactly smooth. Superman shared his own opinion. Aquaman cleared his throat. About that. Is there a way to give them missions with a lower amount of risk? He hurried to explain himself. I'm not doubting their capabilities. Aqualad has proven time and time again that he is strong. What concerns me is how simple missions completely go off the rails. The atmosphere became grimmer. Makes you wonder, how many close calls until one of them gets injured or worse? The mentors looked at each other gravely. Aquaman has a point. But I share a different opinion. The job is dangerous. And they are quite aware of that. Filtering out missions that have an element of danger is not helping them. It's hindering their growth. Canary spoke up. With all due respect, Black Canary, you don't have a protégé. Your opinion, quite frankly, doesn't count. Aquaman's voice was annoyed. Black Canary narrowed her eyes at the King of Atlantis. That's not fair, Arthur. You know that she only has their best interest in mind. Green Arrow defended her. Superman stapled his fingers together. When we all started out, there was no one to hold our hands. The challenges we went through helped shape who we are today. Helped shape what the League stands for. His eyes ran through everyone gathered. Aquaman. You have trained Aqualad to do what you can and more in case you are not around, correct? Arthur begrudgingly nodded his head. Then you understand that for him to truly grow, you need to step back. Let them put what they've learned to work. Let them be greater than us. For that is our job as mentors. To ensure we leave the world in safe hands in the future. Everyone nodded at the Man of Steel's words. Aquaman, seeing he had no support, simply shrugged and kept quiet. The team is more than ready to take on the huge responsibilities we have all prepared them for. That said, there are some concerns that need to be addressed. With a gesture from Batman, the image of the wrecked Cadmus facility, Santa Prisca, and the cornfield where Amazo's fight had occurred appeared on the hologram. We have long suspected the presence of a powerful group working in the shadows to counter the League's efforts. The others sat up straighter. After some investigation and interrogation of both Sportsmaster, Cobra, and recently, Evo, those suspicions have been confirmed. Wow. Do you know the identities of the ones behind it all? Barry inquired. Batman shook his head, a little bit of frustration leaking through. Not yet. They hide in the shadows. It's now quite clear that they're taking advantage of places where the League cannot go, to carry out their agenda. Do they have a name? The one who answered Green Arrow's question was Martian Manhunter. They call themselves, the Light. Mount Justice. I spy with my little eye. A girly I can get, 'cause she don't get too many likes. A curly-headed cutie I can turn into my wife. Wait, that means forever, ever, hold up, never mind. Oh, I spy with my little eye. A girly I can get, 'cause she don't get too many likes. A curly-headed cutie I can turn into my wife. Wait, that means forever, ever, hold up, never mind. Oh, I spy with my little eye. I spy with my little eye. Oh, I spy with my little eye. I spy with my little eye. Oh, Mgan knocked on the door to Aden's room. All she could hear from outside was the sound of music and Aden's voice. He really has a beautiful voice, Mgan thought. And also a great body. She blushed at the direction where her thoughts were taking her and shook her head to get rid of the image of sweat dripping down his brown skin. His muscles rippling with effort as he sparred with Superboy. Then she thought of Superboy, his jaw and beautiful blue eyes staring at her. His rock-solid abs. Mgan didn't notice when the door was opened, revealing a shirtless Aden with headphones on his head, staring at her in confusion. Aden snapped his fingers at Mgan and the Martian got out of her stupor. The reddening on her cheeks increased once her eyes landed on Aden's chest. His sculpted physique looked, Mgan suddenly realized she was staring. She hoped that Aden hadn't noticed, but once her eyes looked at his face, she noticed the smirk. Take a picture, it lasts longer. Gah. Mgan flew away in embarrassment, leaving behind the plate of cookies she had come over to bring. Aden's point of view. I closed the door after Mgan ran away in embarrassment. I munched on a cookie and almost moaned at the tasty goodness. Mgan had gotten better at baking. Her progress was phenomenal, taking into account a few weeks ago she had no concept of earthen food. My eyes swept across my room to admire the new changes. I had used the $5,000 from my winnings to set up a private studio in my own bedroom. Fortunately, the room was huge enough for it to not look cluttered. I went over to the latest LexCorp laptop that had cost me quite a penny. On the screen was this world's version of Pro Tools, a digital audio workstation. It was called Heightens. Next my eyes landed on the keyboard and the guitar I had bought earlier. A microphone, speakers, and the headphones I had on completed the set. Pretty bare for a music studio, but great for starting out. I looked at the notebook in my hand and the lyrics to I Spy by Kyle I was reconstructing from memory. It wasn't the only song in the notebook, however. Basically, I was jotting down all the lyrics to the songs I could remember, editing them and then recording myself and saving the audio file in my computer. It wouldn't do if I forgot the best hits from my world. I even had a few original projects of my own I was working on. Music had always fascinated me, and growing up in a family of musicians, I felt inspired to share that same joy I felt growing up to the rest of the world. I finished up after 2 hours and left my room for the gym, reminding myself to get a good camera for when I started uploading covers in this world's YouTube. On to other things, I arrived in the gym and found Superboy bench pressing 150 tons with ease. I shook my head, said hi and went a bit further away from him to the sparring mat. I first started by stretching my muscles. Stretching was essential for a limber and flexible body, which was essential for my fighting style. Chi blocking incorporated fast but elastic moves to take down your opponent with the minimal amount of effort. It was the principle of blow like the air but sting like a bee. After stretching for half an hour, I started doing the chi blocking katas. The moves flowed like water, one set building the bridge to transition to another move. I got lost into it that I didn't notice it when I started adding air bending stances and moves into the chi blocking. I had done it before, but this time it felt different. The air exploded out like a minute shockwave whenever my fist shot out. The air extended away from my foot like a coiled snake whenever I kicked out and buffeted my surroundings while whistling whenever I spread my hands out without urging. I breathed a little heavily with a confused look on my face. The air whistled. No, let me explain myself. It was different from the normal thing. I crossed my legs and started to meditate. The way it felt, it was like I was given the key to a door I couldn't see. I connected with the air element around me and just observed. It roiled around, coiled in the air while gently swaying across the room. A new sensation also made its way through my senses. The air also sang. I opened my eyes. A breath escaped my mouth. I had it. I knew what the door was. I finally had the way towards my next sub-skill. Sound. A blue box from the avatar system appeared before me. A few days later. It was time for a new mission. The rest of the team was gathered in the hall when I arrived, my visor in my hands. I had gotten caught up in the training room, trying to perfect the new sub-skill I had to minimal success. It was a new application of my bending that I had trouble familiarizing myself with. I said hi and we started making small talk. I noticed that Mgan was going out of her way to ignore Superboy and I. She would blush every time we made eye contact, and during our mental exercises she had been acting weird. I shrugged and put it out of my head. Soon, the security system announced the arrival of Batman, Green Arrow, and our new teammate, Artemis. Only problem is, she noticed me almost right away and shouted, "You!" Everyone turned to look at me and I glared at her. Artemis had the grace to mutter sorry and look away, leaving me feeling stupid for not wearing my visor. Then again, how did she even know it's me? I was pretty sure my mask from when we met was a good disguise. Batman cleared his throat while looking at me, promising that we would have a discussion about what had just happened. Team, I would like to introduce your new teammate. Green Arrow's protege, Artemis. Chapter 21, The Fog Part 1. General point of view. Ra's al Ghul was the incarnate of a shadow. Unknown to most and a daunting figure to those strong enough or influential enough to do. He meditated in his room, awaiting good news from his underling on the progress of the mission. His eyes opened just in time to stare at the screen showing a man whose upper face and head was covered with a visor that had a huge red optical lens at the front. Dr. Raquette has resurfaced. She is trying to track us. That link, however, is a two-way stream. I have her coordinates. It's Happy Harbor, Rhode Island. Who do we have close to that location? Ra's al Ghul asked. I have a few of our people in mind. The leader of the League of Shadows grunted after seeing the names of their closest agents. I have a feeling they won't be enough. What should we do then, Master? Don't concern yourself with that. I'll handle it. Make sure you get what we need. Aden's point of view. Wally glared at me from across the room. The environment was tense and unfriendly. Miss Martian, link us all up. We don't want the shadows to overhear our communication. Aqualad instructed Mgan through the comms. Right. Her voice came through and I instantly felt the telepathic streams connected to my mind. And also Wally's grumbling. He had no right to talk to Speedy like that. I rolled my eyes at the speedster. Dude, I'm mad too, but it's so not the time. Robin backed him up while also reminding him that we were on a mission. Ugh. This was not a good idea. I have a technological work of genius that borders on a miracle to track, a shadow group of assassins that funnily enough call themselves the shadows that want to put me down under. And now on top of that I have to listen to teen drama. Roquette shouted through our mind link, looking exasperated. So not the time, lady. Kid Flash told her, completely missing the irony. Artemis snickered. Kettle meat pot. Like I'm going to listen to the person who stole Speedy's spot on the team. I ground my teeth in anger at seeing the flash of hurt on Artemis' face. So not cool, kid. Ease up a little, it's not her fault, you know. Robin was at least mature enough to accept the situation for what it was. Wally had disappointed me. I'm going to patrol the perimeter, I told them and got up from the desk. Yeah, walk away, traitor. Wally added. Dude. Kid, I will pull you out of this mission if you continue acting like this. Whatever issues you have with Maelstrom or anyone else, solve them after the mission. Not now. Aquilad's voice was sterner than I'd ever heard before. Wally looked surprised before his face got even angrier, staring at me as if it was my fault. I had no doubt that Miss Martian was blocking the expletives. Wally was probably thinking about me, based on her loud sigh. I'll follow Maelstrom too. Artemis said out loud and trailed after me out of the classroom. We made our way out into the open, the school building behind us in relative silence. I'm sorry. Artemis told me softly, rubbing her arm. I cocked my head to the side in a little confusion. For what? Well, for a lot of things actually. You stood up to Speedy mainly because of me. I shook my head and turned my head around to look out into the bushes surrounding school property. Trust me. It was less about you and more about how that guy's attitude annoys me. Artemis chuckled a little. Yeah, you made that quite clear in the hall. I smiled at her as my thoughts took me back to what had happened. It was right after Speedy, now Red Arrow, had arrived with our new mission details. To protect a genius scientist he had rescued from the League of Shadows, while the scientist tried to track down a swarm of nano-machines she had been coerced into making by the same group. The nano-machines were called the Fog. They could eat through anything. Metal, concrete, flesh, and bones. Their main function, however, was that they could instantly download any data and information from data storage systems and deliver it to the one controlling them. Cutting-edge technology, top government information and secrets. The one who controlled them could do anything. Knowledge is power after all. She was hidden in the local high school of Happy Harbor. Back to Red Arrow, first of all he had swaggered in like he owned the place. Which I would normally shrug at and mind my own business, but then he totally became an ass and insulted not only Artemis but the team. Talking about how we would never amount to anything meaningful while under the League's oversight. A while ago. I snickered at Red Arrow's words. Everyone turned to stare at me. You have something to say, newbie? Red Arrow asked, with a bite in his tone. Me? No. See, I was actually content just listening to you bitch about how life is so sad because no one understands how great you are and how much they're wrong not to offer you a spot in the Justice League. There was a brief silence. Then Red Arrow took a step towards me, anger rolling off him in waves. What makes you think you can talk to me like that? I smiled and got up. What makes you think I can't? Maelstrom. I held up a hand to silence Aqualad, my eyes still staring at Red Arrow. You walk in here like you own the place. Talk rudely to everyone, including your so-called friends, and expect that the rest of us are just going to lay down and take it? The smile slipped off my face as I crossed my hands. You don't know what you're talking about, Maelstrom. Kid Flash appeared between us and pushed me back. He turned to address Red Arrow. Speedy, he's new. Don't listen to him. He still tried to suck up to the older teen despite the fact that all he had done was be a dick to everyone. My ears buzzed as I couldn't believe it. I looked around and except for Batman, who was unreadable, Red Tornado, who didn't really care about whatever was going on, Artemis, Superboy and Miss Martian, all I could feel wafting off everyone else was disapproval. Wow. Does this guy have superpowers that make other people want to seek approval from him or something? I wondered. Frankly speaking, I don't care what you think of me. Yeah, right, I thought. I brought you all a job I was sure you could handle. From your words, however, I'm thinking maybe I was wrong. He told me and I chuckled. Dude, this is not about our capabilities. Check our mission log. You'll be surprised to learn that other people are competent too. You're just mad that I see right through your bullshit. There was an intake of breath when my words dropped. Red Arrow couldn't handle it anymore and advanced menacingly towards me. You little. Both of you, stand down. This is not the time or the place. Batman came between us. Red Arrow stared into the Dark Knight's eyes and held it before clenching his teeth and turning towards the Zeta tube. I'm leaving. Speedy B06. It's Red Arrow B06. Update. He stated as the light of the Zeta tube washed over him. What is wrong with you? Kid Flash came up to me to hold me by the shirt, but I easily shrugged him off. I should be the one asking you that question. You all just let him walk all over you. I stared at the three veteran sidekicks. I mean, I can understand Kid Flash's misplaced loyalty. But even you, Aqualad? You're so blinded by whatever past you have all shared that you can't see your friend is changing. You don't know him. Speedy is a good guy. Robin came to his defense. I never said he wasn't. But the bitterness he carries, that irrational anger at the League for denying him what he thinks is his right, will get him hurt or worse. Watch your words carefully, Maelstrom. You're still pretty new, so your opinion about him is all wrong. Green Arrow finally spoke up. The older man's eyes were no nonsense and stern. I could already see that no matter what I said, they would still look at me as if I was the bad guy. I took a deep breath and nodded. You're right. But I'll tell you one last thing. My gaze was unflinching as I stared them all down. He comes up to me like that again and I'm not backing down. I have my own self-respect and I hate bullies. No matter what kind. Damn. That was so hot. Artemis whispered, but given how everyone was silent, no one missed it. Green Arrow sighed. Time to move out, team. Maelstrom, I want to see you after the mission. Batman stated and left. Present time. That's not the only thing. Artemis' words pulled me out of my thoughts. I spared a glance and waited for her to continue. My reaction when I saw you, it's going to raise some questions. Especially with Batman. I already knew what she was getting at, but still, I pretended to be confused. And why is that? She held my hand, making me stop and turn towards her fully. Let's just say that my situation is a bit different. You saw where we first met, right? That's my real life. Her tone turned gloomy. I sighed. I understand. Trust me, my eyes softened and a small smile appeared on my face. Someone else would tell you that your background doesn't determine the choices you make in life, but that's a lie. There are things you can't fully shake off. Where you come from defines a part of you. And you can't ignore that. She was stunned for a little bit. All right, I didn't expect that. She finally said, making me raise an eyebrow. Should I be insulted? I feel like I should be insulted. Artemis chuckled. You can't exactly blame me. I thought you hot guys trade your brains for those muscles. I smirked. You think I'm hot? Artemis boldly squeezed my bicep and licked her lips. Guilty as charged. I swallowed. This girl. By the way, you never told me how you recognized me. I asked her. The jaw. Before she could elaborate, a sound in the bushes made us pause. Did you hear something? She nodded and knocked an arrow, letting it loose towards the grove of trees near the fence. There was a clang and I grabbed her hand, pulling her out of the way of the metal hook flying at us. Guys, we have company. The Captain Hook kind. I informed the others through our mind link. I had gotten good enough at manipulating what I sent over, so most of the mental echo from my communication with Artemis was isolated from the rest. Seems like they now know our location. Maelstrom, Artemis, deal with whoever that is and fall back to within close proximity. We are short on manpower because I sent Superboy and Robin to where the fog is. Aqualad's voice came through the link. Got it. This marks the end of part 6 of the story, Avatar in DC Universe. Thank you for listening. Please like the video and hit the subscribe button to listen more. Hit the bell icon to get notified of all the new content uploaded to the channel ASAP.